Judicial activism means not only are you interpreting, not only are you enforcing, you're also trying to create laws where there is a certain legal vacuum. How many of you have heard of sexual harassment ka jo famous judgment tha Vishaka? There is a famous case known as the Vishaka case of 1997 of the Supreme Court, subsequent to which the sexual harassment legislation came about in 2013. Have you watched this movie called Bavandar? Nandita Das, she plays the role of a social worker who gets brutally gang raped by a bunch of landlords in Rajasthan. This is based on a real life story of this lady called Banwari Devi, right? And this lady was repeatedly subjected to gang rape by a host of landlords who said that this person from this lowly caste should not actually be rising up against us. That was their basic assumption, and they raped her right in front of the eyes of her husband. This is what happened. Subsequent to this, there was this organization called Vishakha, which was a women's organization that approached the Supreme Court to say, Milords, we don't have a legislation that addresses sexual harassment at workplaces. Today you can talk of sexual harassment at workplaces, you can talk of sexual harassment in educational spaces, you can talk of all this. But in 1997, you did not have a legislation, you did not have a Qanun under which you could have actually lodged a complaint. That was the situation we are talking about. When this happened, the Supreme Court was faced with a situation saying, my role is that of an interpreter, my role is that of an enforcer. But what do I do when I have nothing to interpret? What do I do when I have nothing to enforce? Because there is no law that has been passed by the parliament to address sexual harassment. What do I do? It is in that situation that the Supreme Court came about with a brilliant theory saying, I can be accused of judicial activism if there is law and I'm doing something that is contrary to that particular legislation. But when there is no law and I'm trying to address a certain situation, I cannot be accused of going against something. अगर कोई कानून है और आप उसके खिलाफ कुछ करेंगे, then that becomes crossing a certain Lakshman Rekha. अगर कानून ही नहीं है and you're trying to address a situation that is before you, then that is not judicial activism according to the Supreme Court.